remember what you're fighting for.
The movie begins in Okagawa, Japan, in the year 1986, taking us back to the events of the original Karate Kid. In this scene, Mr. Miyagi shows Daniel photographs of his ancestors, and in particular the first Miyagi to bring karate to Okagawa. It turns out that the Han and Miyagi families have been connected for many years. They shared cultures and fighting styles. The Han family, who mastered Kung Fu, and the Miyagi family karate. We then move to Beijing, China, where Mr. Han's school has prospered greatly and now has hundreds of students following the same instructions and training style to become experts in Kung Fu. The training session is interrupted by Lee's mother, Mr. Han's #1 disciple. The reason for her visit is because she doesn't want her son to follow the same path as his older brother, who unfortunately died in the past at the hands of a competitor who didn't accept his defeat in the Beijing Championship, thus ending his life. Since then, Lee's mother has blamed Kung Fu for taking her son away. And therefore, every chance she gets, she reminds him that he is forbidden to practice it, as she loves him very much and doesn't want to lose him. But the real reason for her visit is not to scold him, but to inform him that they are moving to the United States, specifically New York City. Lee's mother believes that this change of scenery will also help her son overcome his brother's death and give up Kung Fu. Having just arrived, they settle in and Lee decides to go get something for dinner. Just as they arrived, he saw a pizzeria nearby, so he wants to go buy one. On his walk, he runs into the owner, who is a bit sarcastic when Lee asks for a pizza with a cheese-stuffed crust. And pay attention because this name comes up later at the championship. Since instead of being served, he was being bothered by adults, the owner's daughter, named Mia, is the one who kindly mentions that they don't sell that type of pizza, but she can offer him another. She also helps him by informing him about a store where he can buy toilet paper, as they need it since they just arrived. Since his mother wants Lee to take his exams to get into university, she has insisted that he work hard at school so that he gets good grades and can apply to the university of his choice. On his way home, he runs into Mia again, and he offers to help her when he sees her drop some cans she was carrying. They take this opportunity to chat and get to know each other a little. Lee offers to carry her bags while they walk through the city. There, they come across Connor's gym. This brings back memories for Lee of when he practiced Kung Fu. Mia seems a bit uncomfortable and urges him to leave quickly, and one of the reasons was to avoid running into the gym owner, who is not only not a good guy, but also Mia's father owes him money, and this has caused problems for her family. This man is not only the owner of the gym, but also Connor's father, and when his father enters, he lets him know with a mocking tone that Mia is already meeting someone else. This angers Connor, and he brutally beats one of his sparring partners. In another scene, Mia wants to repair a part of her pizzeria, and the clerk is Chinese. The price she gives for the replacement part is too high, and if the part were new, it would be even worse. Lee, since he speaks Chinese, communicates with the clerk and lets her know that Mia is his girlfriend, thus also getting a discount. This causes them to have an instant connection and chemistry. Lee proposes to teach her Mandarin Chinese, and in return she will show him some of New York's most iconic places. And aboard a motorcycle, they embark on a tour of the city that doesn't last long before the motorcycle starts to fail. Now, to get home, they have to take the subway. And unfortunately for Mia, Connor is in the same car with his friends. He approaches her pretentiously to bother her and also to intimidate Lee. This doesn't work, and when it seemed like things were going to stay that way, Connor takes Lee by surprise and punches him in the face, leaving him with a huge black eye. Mia tells Lee the reason she went out with Connor in the past. It was simply a rebellious phase, just to go against her father, who was against that relationship from the start. Mia mentions that Connor wasn't like that at the beginning, and it wasn't until he started practicing martial arts that he became aggressive and began to feel superior to others. Mia takes Lee to her father to have his eye made up because she doesn't want her mother to find out that he was involved in a fight. He does his makeup quite well. He learned from his wife because in the past he was a boxer, and from so many punches he received, he even learned to cover up his bruises himself. The makeup works quite well, at least for the night, because in the morning his mother notices and again asks him to stop fighting and focus on his studies. For this, she already has a plan. She has found him a tutor who will help him especially with algebra, which is where he is doing the worst. At night, Lee was unpacking some of his things and finds a photograph with his brother. This brings back a memory of a special move, the dragon kick, a very complicated move that Lee was never able to perfect. The next day at school, Lee is provoked by Connor, and he falls for the provocation and, to humiliate him even more, challenges him to a fight where he won't use his hands. He attacks, but Connor is quite good and manages to defend himself and attack without problems. There, Lee tries to use the dragon kick that his brother taught him, and although this move makes Connor take his hands out of his pockets, it is not enough, and he ends up being defeated. While returning home, Lee finds a flyer among the advertisements on the walls for the upcoming 5 Districts tournament. Mia had already mentioned this to him, as Connor has won every tournament since he started participating. At night, Lee wanted to check Mia's motorcycle to see if he could fix it when a group of men who work for Connor's father arrive at the pizzeria to collect what Victor owes them. But these men are very hostile and also attack Lee. When Victor realizes the situation, he tries to take charge, but he didn't count on one of these men ending up hitting him on the head, knocking him unconscious for a moment. Having no other choice or help, Lee takes charge of the situation and faces each of them, showing that his kung fu is far from bad, managing to scare them away, at least for now. Inside the pizzeria, Victor tells him that he borrowed money from the wrong people, and since he can't pay, those men come to collect it. He also takes the opportunity to show him his mural of photographs, some posters of some of his fights, and how he once won the belt. His plan is to participate in a fight since he knows someone who organizes them. The prize, if he wins, would be enough to pay his debt and still keep his business, and hopefully even have a little left over for Mia's university. But for this plan to work, he asks for Lee's help to train him, as he has been out of the ring for several years and is a bit rusty. Because of his mother's advice, Lee doesn't know what decision to make. So he calls Mr. Han to ask for his advice, and the answer he receives is that if Kung Fu helps another person and he will also benefit, he should do it. This is enough for Lee to decide to help Victor, and just like the advice Mr. Han gave him, Lee does the same. Victor can train anywhere, at any time, with any object he has at hand. He doesn't need special instruments, everything in the pizzeria works for him. And he teaches him a couple of moves and some basic Kung Fu strikes to become faster and more agile in combat. Another day at night, Lee goes out with his tutor to a fair where he meets Mia, who is being stalked by Connor. Although from what he can see, she doesn't seem uncomfortable, and this hurts him a lot because he has been having feelings for her. When Victor's fight day arrives, Lee is indifferent and distant with her, which causes Mia to have a conversation with him to find out what is happening to him. Mia confesses that she saw Connor because he believes she doesn't deserve someone like her ex-boyfriend. And although it's true that Mia was at the fair, she lets him know that she didn't make the same mistake again, and that any mistakes she makes in the future, she would want to make them with him. Unfortunately, Victor enters at that exact moment, frustrating their kiss. When the fight begins, Victor's movements seem to be quite good, showing that Lee really helped improve his fighting despite his age and the years he had been retired. Victor seems to be in control of the fight as he keeps his opponent against the ropes. One of the prohibited moves is to strike with the elbow, and since his opponent was about to lose, Connor's father instructs him to hit Victor, breaking the rules. This causes him to be knocked out, and not only that, but his life is in danger. This scene is quite traumatic for Lee because he has a flashback of what he experienced when his brother was stabbed and how he freezes despite Mia's pleas for him to help, make her angry with him. And not only that, his mother makes him feel responsible since if he hadn't trained Victor, he wouldn't be fighting between life and death. Days pass, and Lee is quite disappointed in himself, as he almost destroys everything he touches. One day when he was returning home at night, he sees that the window was open, and a man starts attacking him. But what seemed like an assault was actually a visit from his old master. He came to the city just to visit them and see how they were. But he arrives at an excellent time when Lee's spirits are at rock bottom. At the hospital, Mr. Han and Lee visit Victor, who has already recovered, but the one who doesn't want to see him is Mia, who leaves the room as soon as she sees him. Mr. Han, who is already aware of Victor's situation, recites an old Chinese proverb, "A friend's problem is my problem." Mr. Han's plan is for Lee to enter the 5 Districts tournament. He has 7 days to train, but for this he has to visit an old friend. So Mr. Han makes a brief visit to Daniel's dojo, not without first bringing a small gift to Mr. Miyagi, who not only has a direct connection with his family but was also an old friend in the past. Mr. Han asks for Daniel's help to train his disciple. He initially refuses, and although he continues to refuse, Mr. Han knows beforehand that he will not dismiss his request and leaves, internally believing that he will see Daniel again, but this time in New York. On the other hand, Lee's tutor has just found the place he needs to carry out his training, and although it is not a gym, it is a garden on top of a building, but it serves perfectly for training. The training begins, but it is a bit different from what has already been seen, as we are now talking about a higher level, like putting on or taking off a jacket while doing sit-ups. This training scene is quite nostalgic, as it is quite similar to what we had already seen in Karate Kid from 2010, and even more surprising is to see that Daniel finally arrives in New York willing to contribute his knowledge to Lee. The 5 districts tournament is extremely difficult. Daniel knows this, and that is why he is there. Kung Fu will not be enough if he wants to win the tournament. He needs to combine it with karate. And to learn those moves, Daniel will also be his teacher. Here, there is a comical subtle rivalry between Mr. Han and Daniel for wanting to show that their martial art is better. Lee, with the help of his tutor, makes a plan to meet Mia at the top of the building where they train so that he can apologize and fix their problems. Everything goes according to plan, and Mia forgives him. The day of the 5 districts tournament begins. The combat is quite simple. It ends until time runs out or by knockout. A strike to the body is worth 1 point, and one to the face is worth 2. The first to fight is Lee, who, due to his nervousness, doesn't show his full potential, but then he makes it clear when he defeats his first opponent. All the fights will not take place on the same day, so Lee still has time to continue training and learn from Daniel. In the second match, Lee looks much more confident. But on the other hand, Connor is also doing his part to reach the semi-finals. Lee does the same, and in the last round, he not only doesn't win by points, but knocks out his opponent. This would not please some who try to hurt Lee so that he cannot participate in the finals. Fortunately, his teachers who were with him take care of the situation. Now that he is in the final, Daniel suggests that he learn a move to be able to deceive and surprise him. Lee remembers that the dragon kick he tried to do at school was a failure. This gives Daniel the idea for him to do the exact same move but to duck at the end to surprise him. So in the subway, Lee begins to train until he masters it completely. Before the fight begins, Daniel gives him his tree band, which symbolizes the union of Kung Fu and Karate. When he arrives, an enthusiastic crowd was already waiting for him, because for some who considered him the rookie, he is already in the final. On the other hand, Connor, the winner of past tournaments, also makes his appearance. The combat begins, and the fight seems quite close. Although Connor makes his power clear by taking the lead on the scoreboard, and against all odds in something that no one definitely expected, is that Lee manages to connect some successful blows, taking the lead 7-0. What Lee didn't expect is a direct headbutt from Connor that leaves him unconscious for a fraction of a second. He gets to his feet and puts the plan they had been practicing into action. Lee uses his dragon kick that Connor immediately remembers, and when he was about to counter it, Lee makes an agile move, managing to connect a kick to the chest in the last second, thus winning the tournament. Connor, angry, tries to attack him from behind, but he subdues him and stops himself from delivering a blow in the last second when his teacher asks him not to. With this, he not only earns the ovation of the public, but also the respect of Connor, thus establishing himself as the absolute champion. Later, Victor has expanded his business and paid off his debts. Han also sends Daniel a pizza with a photograph of the tournament as a thank you, but he was not alone. He was with Johnny, and their conversation really has absolutely nothing to contribute to the plot, as it seems to have served more as a cameo since we remember that Cobra Kai happens before the events of Karate Kid, Legends, and this is how this incredible movie ends. Leave me in the comments what you thought and if you liked it, and also don't leave without giving me your thumbs up. I will be reading you all. Until next time.